My name is Ella Francis, and I am presenting on homeless adult population. So the media usually portrays these homeless population as just the numbers. So we tend to not think about them because when we hear numbers, we don't think about them as people with feelings and ideas. And also, on an occasion, we hear about a story of someone who overcame homelessness or a homeless person who got involved with drugs or criminal activities. And this particular population lack of family support. According to Stafford and Wood, homelessness itself is a socially determined, often the cumulative result of a dysfunction in family, social, economic, and relational areas. This is also true. I work at the alcohol and chemical dependency treatment center and behavior health unit at Ogden Regional Medical Center, and a lot of my patients are homeless and they usually have a very little support of from their families, and that's because a lot of them grew up in a dysfunctional family, and or because of their behavior issues, they have a very limited relationships with their families. So the role of a peers could be it can be supportive if those peers overcame homelessness, then they could inspire hope and encourage self-care to another homeless person. But it can be also disruptive because if that peer wants to use drugs or participate in crimes together, then it can be very disruptive. So, homeless population has a cyclical nature. Usually, the homelessness is triggered by a job loss or unexpected bills that exceed their income. Um, Usually, more than a third of the homeless population is employed, but those jobs tend to be low wage, so they do not meet the needs of the family. So it's hard to overcome the poverty, which is a strong indicator for homelessness. And there are lots of system. There are lots of resources in the system. So locally, there are Davis Community Housing Authority in Farmington and Family Connection Center in Clearfield and etc. And there are also a lot of shelters in the state and also nationally. There are political system to help with this particular population. So there are potential barriers. The first one is attitudinal barriers. So homeless population, when they try to have access to mainstream services, they often um, face barriers such as rudeness, disrespect, and even disdain. And also, usually, mainstream services they do not want to serve homeless clients. And also, there are inherent barriers such as when usually the homeless population lack high education. So when they need to fill out an application, um, due to their illiteracy or low level education, they are unable to fill them out. And there's also stigma attached to the homeless population as well. So a lot of homeless people, they don't want to apply for benefits because they feel that homelessness itself is a stigmatizing, and they have to admit their homeless status during the application process. And since they are homeless, they are not able to give an address on the application. So that's another barrier. And also, if they have a mental illness, then um, the possibility of admitting it, that's just another stigma that they have to face. So that's another barrier. And there are no really places in the world where this population would not be in danger or would not be shunned. So there is no really safe place. And socioeconomic status affect the health outcomes greatly on this population. So according to Adler and Newman, socioeconomic status underlies three major determinants of health, such as healthcare, environmental exposure, and health behavior, and also chronic stress associated with lower socioeconomic status may also increase morbidity and mortality. And usually, homeless population has lower socioeconomic status. So they're always exposed to harsh environments. And right now, there is a COVID-19 pandemic going on right now. And so there is a mandatory stay-at-home order here in Farmington, which is Davis County, but they have nowhere to go. And they do not have access to healthcare, and they usually have a poor health behavior. For example, they cannot really have a sanitary environment, and they usually have alcohol and drugs abuse issues. And most minority groups experience homelessness at much higher rates than whites. As you can see, those numbers, um, it's whites have a very lower, um, well, they experience homelessness at much lower rates than other populations. So, for example, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander and Black um, and American Indian and Alaska Native they experience homelessness at much higher rates compared to the whites. So, according to National Alliance to End Homelessness, so African American population only represent 13% of the general population in the US, but they make up 40% of the homeless population, which is just crazy. And the reason is because of from slavery to segregation, African Americans they have been systematically denied equal rights and opportunities. And these effects of a long-standing discrimination um, linger and perpetuate disparities in poverty, housing, criminal justice, and healthcare, among other areas. So these disparities can contribute to more African Americans experiencing homelessness. And religion has positive effects on the homeless adult population. According to the study conducted by Hodge, Moser, and Schaefer, they found that spirituality is a strength that helps homeless mothers deal with the stress of a homelessness. So they said that the homeless mothers said that they, because of the stress of being homeless, they could not think of escaping homelessness, but spirituality helps them to feel hopeful, and also they make them feel um, think that it makes them think that maybe there is a reason why they are going through homelessness, and or it makes them think that maybe God has a bigger plans for me. So religion and spirituality have really positive effects on the homeless adult population. So female homeless population faces a greater risk of a premature mortality and higher prevalence of chronic medical conditions. And they also use acute healthcare more than homeless men, according to Montgomery and Syzyme, Koyak, and Culhane. And geographical location also affects health disparities in homeless adult population. So according to the study conducted by Ramin and Svoboda, homeless individuals have a higher rates of underlying disease and greater exposure and poorer protection from the elements, and are more likely to occupy high-risk urban areas. So right now, so this results in greater rates of illness and death due to increases in heat waves, air pollution, storms and floods, and vector-borne diseases resulting from climate change. Right now in New York, where there is high rates of homelessness population living in there, they are just exposed to this coronavirus, which is extremely dangerous. So definitely living in urban areas during this time, it's not safe for the homeless population. And there are also health disparities. There are also implicit and explicit biases for this population. So according to Homeless Hub, a lot of discriminatory practices are increasingly implicit rather than explicit. And for example, women of color are disproportionately discriminated against when they seek housing. So, for example, like single mothers experience a discrimination from landlords based on their age, family size, low income, receiving welfare, race, language proficiency, and a lack of references. And also, a third of individuals seeking housing will face discrimination and be denied housing based on their mental illness. And for explicit bias, for example, racial bias against African Americans. So according to a study conducted by Knight, so as I mentioned earlier, so 41% of the national homeless population is they are identified as Black or African American. So thus racial biases play a major role in the explicit beliefs and actions taken towards homeless individuals, including increased social distance and differences in stereotypes. And there are really no countries that these disparities would have a less influence on health for this population. According to the study conducted by Crombie, Irvine, Emmett, and Wallace, different countries have different definitions of inequalities of health and their assessment of the scale of the problem. So it's really hard to tell. And these are my references. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.